Lil Uzi Vert and a Future collaborative album. That doesn't sound all that interesting, but it's here. It exists. We've been waiting for this album for quite a long time. Anybody who's been within the hip hop community, I remember back in August or it was July around that time, like all of hip hop Twitter was like, "Oh my God, they're dropping this thing tonight," and then they just dropped two really boring, bland sequels that are like got singles that got like actually no attention and like nobody cared about them, even though we're all hyping up a project. They didn't drop an album then, but we were all thinking, okay, so it's coming. It's coming soon. Maybe it's coming out next month or something. It's November now, so now it's out. Do I care? No, but it's out. It came now. This is though, in terms of collaborative projects, in terms of numbers and success, it's pretty important. I mean, Lil Uzi Vert is one of the biggest and most loved rappers of 2020. I don't really know why, but he had his very successful and very anticipated Eternal Take, probably the most anticipated album of 2020 as a whole. Really was the huge project for him, and it was very successful. Most people can agree it was a little underwhelming, but it was very successful nonetheless. And then he had his, was it Love versus World or something project? He did the thing where it's like a deluxe after it. I didn't hear the deluxe, I didn't really care. But Lil Uzi Vert has seen a lot of attention, a lot of respect in 2020. And Future, he's actually got quite a bit of attention this year, but it feels like every year Future gets a little bit of attention. But in 2020 it was particular because he had his giant single, Life is Good, which I'm pretty sure the numbers on YouTube for that are bought because it makes no sense. But the point is that he had a very successful single right ahead of the year, and he had a pretty successful album in May, has had a lot of really big singles and features across the year. Future has become a pretty popular and loved trap artist, and Lil Uzi Vert is one of the most loved and popular trap artists. So a collaborative project in November, like Victory Lap for them, sure, makes sense for me. Do I think anything either of them have put out this year was interesting in the slightest bit? Absolutely not. Eternal Take to me was just really bland, and I liked a couple things about it. I thought there were a couple cool verses, some good hooks, a lot of cool production, but overall as an album, it's just kind of fell flat for me, and I found myself really uninterested by the project as a whole. And the same really went for High Off Life, only I didn't have much interest in High Off Life. I listened to it just because, people have been talking about it, and it was big artist, released big album. To me, High Off Life was better than Eternal Take, but not much. It was just okay to me. There were a couple strong points, I'll admit. There were a couple really solid tracks. But as a whole, it's just kind of, there's also 21 tracks, and most of them were kind of trash. So honestly, in terms of artistry, I don't think either of them have had a great 2020. Now, in terms of them as actual artists, I don't really like either. But the thing about it is that I don't dislike either to a great extent, because I think both of them can be really solid, and they have proven multiple times that they can be really good. I think as a whole, Lil Uzi Vert can be really great, but I think I'm expecting a notification. I think as a whole, he's kind of chosen this really bland route to go on, and he hasn't really given me much of interest this year as a whole, or just at all in general. Not like even like 2017. The only single I really like from the guy is EXO Tour Life. Everything else he's put out has just been bad to okay. And I really wish I could hear some great Lil Uzi Vert material, but really to me, everything he puts out feels really half-assed, and it feels really like he's not trying. And Future to me is just boring. I just don't care for Future. I don't dislike the guy, I just don't care for the guy. He has released a couple good singles. I think Mask Off's a great track. I mentioned earlier, Life is Good's a great track, only I like Life is Good because of Drake, not Future. But he's released a couple good singles here and there, but as a whole, my issue with Future just becomes, in essence, he's nothing. In essence, he doesn't do anything. He's just kind of there. The most interesting piece of High Off Life is the features, not the rapper making them. The most interesting part of any good Future song is not Future. It's anything else in the song. The thing I like about Mask Off is the beat. Like, that's the part I really like. It doesn't matter if Future raps over it. He, does nothing for the beat. He just kind of, the beat really destroys him, honestly. His performance really doesn't matter to me at all. It's mostly the beat that I quite like on that track. And I quite like the track as a whole just because of that beat. Future to me just doesn't really do anything interesting. Lil Uzi Vert can do things interesting, but he chooses not to. So really, at the end of the day, I'm being set up for nothing. I'm being set up for a nothing album. I'm just not... I just wasn't... I went into this hopeful, but I didn't think I was going to get anything better than, like, mid. Because to me, neither of these artists this year have been capable of making anything beyond mid. And I'm going to do something today, other than, unlike my other reviews, because I will not go through every single track on this album. Do you know why I won't go through every single track on this album? Because they're all the same thing. They're all the same goddamn thing 16 freaking times. Oh my god. I did not think an album could be so repetitive. I know I'm like shit. Usually I go through the track list and then I get my analysis at the end. But oh my god, I'm not even going to go through this track list. I read the track list like again before recording this video, and I could pull it up right now. And I was just like, I can't review any of these tracks because I say the same thing every time. I just say the beat is there. The performances are there too. There's nothing terrible on this album. There's nothing good on it either. It's just all really the same bland thing like 16 times in a row. And I went into this album hopeful. I went into the album actually wanting to like it because everybody in hip-hop Twitter was like, oh, this is a solid album. But hip-hop Twitter is not even talking about this anymore. And they love Lil Uzi. And they're not even like talking about this album anymore. But my point is that I cannot physically go through every single track on an album when every single track sounds the same and is the same thing thematically. The same. Even thematically, this album is so repetitive. I could talk about some like highlights. That's It is an okay track. Thought Marty on Me was pretty terrible. I Don't Want to Break Up was very annoying. Bought a Bad Bitch was... I'd already heard it a million times this year. Lullaby was shit. This fucking album is so boring. And it's not that I dislike or hate either of these men, because I don't. I just don't think they tried. Production... it's okay. The production's okay, but it's just... I'd like it more if it didn't just sound like everything these people are doing. And there was a deluxe that came out today. I listened to like 10 seconds of every track. I have even less to say. It's that now that album is 24 tracks long, and I still just have nothing to say on any one of those 24 tracks. As a whole, there's nothing interesting about it. The thing about it is, the thing about this is that I think there's solid production on this because I think it's good producers because it's popular artists. They're both very popular artists, so getting good production is inevitable. I just wish it wasn't the same beat every time. I mean it. It's the same thing. I don't mean it has the same rhythm or like trap every time, but I mean in like essence and in the grand scheme of it, it's the same song over and over again. 16 freaking times. This album feels so much longer than it actually is. You know what? I listened to Extinction Level Event by Busta Rhymes last night. That album felt half as long as that one. That album was nearly an hour and 20 minutes. This is only 54 minutes, and it feels like an hour and 20 minutes because it is so repetitive and boring. I don't really know what else I'm going to say in this video other than just this was not worth my time, and it's not really worth your time either. It's not terrible. It's not even really that offensive to me. It's just so boring and so repetitive. There's nothing interesting I gained from this album. I went into it hoping to get something better. This is probably the worst thing either of them put out this year because at least Eternal Atake and High Off Life both had those okay moments. There's not even like a standout like verse. There's not even a standout bar on this album. There's nothing like stands out on this album at all. I will forget this album's entire existence tomorrow. It is so uninteresting. I'm giving this a C-. That might sound a little soft for me, sounding pretty harsh. But honestly, anything worse would imply that I really dislike it. And I don't, because I just don't think there's a single element of this that was interesting. What do you guys think on... I didn't even mention the title was Pluto and Baby Pluto. One of the worst album titles of the year. I'm not even joking. What the hell? What do you guys think on this? See you guys next time. Sorry I didn't do a traditional review. I just can't for an album that, it's almost physically impossible. Bye.